Education in agriculture has been on a changing gear and wheel. Agriculture in schools has gone through various phases. In all, it is a transformation of the understanding and practice of farming to meet the changing world of the time that matters. My guest on this week's edition of the program talks about the government's plan to return agriculture to schools, starting with tertiary education. Hello there. Thank you for joining me on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. Now, do you ever recall farming or gardening back in your days in primary or secondary schools? Well, then agriculture was part of a child's education, but that is not the case in today's world. The course of agriculture education has changed, and the government wants to take us back to those days. Well, my guest is the Minister of Agriculture. We're coming up next. The federal government of Nigeria has set up a task force on food security to curb rising cost of food items. We'll take a listen on this. Nigeria is in recession and economic indicators are not showing positive signs. It is indeed hard times for Nigerians. Inflation rate hit an 11-year high at 18.55% in December 2016 from 18.48% in November. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the rise in the index was caused by increases in prices of food and household items. A market survey revealed that the price of 12.5 kilogram gas surged to 6,000 naira in January 2017 as against 3,500 naira in January 2016. Also, 50 kilogram rice rose to 19,000 naira from 11,500 naira, while 5 liters of vegetable oil increased to 3,000 from 1,200. Concerned about the rising cost of living, the federal government constituted a presidential task force to urgently consider measures to reverse recent price increases.
Government is quite concerned about the rising cost of food items and the fact that more often than not, even when this food is available, it does not reach the market. And it's just when it does reach the market, it does so at a very exorbitant prices.
Presiding over the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, expressed concern at some of the inflationary rates of food prices and asked the team to explore options to promote availability and affordability of food items to Nigerians. The committee will also review the transportation and preservation processes of food items and see how government can intervene in those aspects to bring down food prices.
Nigerians have no business being hungry. We just have to work out what the problem is, because actual quantity of food being produced is actually quite high, but by the time it gets to the cities especially, it's unaffordable for many people. So that's what the committee are going to be looking at. Some work has already started, and I think I'm optimistic that we'll come out with something that will at least help to begin to address this problem.
The Interministerial Task Force has 1 week to draw out a practical plan and present same at the next Federal Executive Council meeting. The team include the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Development, the Minister of Transportation, the Minister for Water Resources, and the Minister of Labour and Employment. In our interview, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Chief Audu Ogbe, speaks on the government's plan to improve agriculture education and ultimately encourage young people to embrace farming as a passion and a profession. Chief Aldo Ogbe, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, now we have 3 universities of agriculture that has been in existence since 1988, and now they have been moved from the regulation of the National Universities Commission to the Ministry of Agriculture. What is the reason behind that movement?
Well, the universities were established in 1998. The law came into existence in 1992 in November. From the very beginning, they were under the management of the Ministry of Agriculture. Until some 22 years down the road when something happened, I don't know what exactly, and by executive fiat, somebody asked them to move to the Ministry of Education. And that's how they left. And then, because they left, they gave up their core mandate of developing agriculture, doing research and training in agriculture. And the effect has been quite severe on progress in agricultural development here.
What do you mean by severe?
Severe because you can't do agriculture now. It's not the days of peasant farmers in the villages without research. We need work on seeds, soil types, nutrition. We need processing. You keep inventing. You need diseases, protection against crops and so on. So people just have to be doing this work.
Let's understand the difference. When they're under education, what is the difference now that they'll be under the Ministry
They
of
had
Agriculture?
no money for grants. They then started teaching, engaging in management courses like accounting, administration, secretarial studies, even law. Not too long ago, one of them was about to start teaching medicine, human medicine. And
Which of them?
I won't tell you the name now. But they said they were doing all that because they needed to raise revenue to try and cope with research. Now, when they were under us, they had pilot farms in villages. They had extension officers teaching villagers how to plant corn, how to plant their yams, what kind of fertilizer was best for what kind of soil. They taught them all kinds of things, and people came along. But as they went off, the farmers also simply returned to their good old peasant ways of growing food. And so we had to rely on imports to feed ourselves, especially in the staples, and in eggs, and in vegetables, and fruits. Everything went down.
The bane of every university really should be research.
Research.
Was that not happening?
And teaching.
Wasn't that happening?
No, research simply died. They said so yesterday when they came. Research died because to do research, you need funding. To get the funding, you have to make the case to a ministry sympathetic to your cause. A ministry that knows that this is your main business. The Ministry of Education has a large number of universities under it. And they might have been trying, but definitely not enough.
Even with TET Fund?
Even with TET Fund, they weren't getting enough.
What sort of grants will the Ministry of Agriculture offer?
Research grants, laboratory equipment, reagents, training, exchange programs with foreign universities. We have offers from 4 countries now. The UK, Brazil, the European Union, the Chinese, the Indians, the Argentinians, all asking if they can do exchange programs with young men and women from here. And then there will be other issues now. We are saying to research institutes, don't just do your research, market your research. Get into the market too, make money. The University of Texas, A&M they call it, Agriculture and Mechanical, some years when they do their AGM, they make $14 billion, a profit of 3.7. Extension work, soil testing, soil mapping, right? Research in seed, the sale of improved seeds, all kinds of things agricultural universities do, which make them very rich and independent, are not being done here now. And these are universities sitting on large hectareages of land. I think Umudike is sitting on about 10,000 hectares, 10,000 football fields. Ilorin, close to 20,000. Benue, 9,000 by the river bank. So a lot can be done by these universities.
I need to point out some things, because a lot of restructuring have been going on, and And some people really think that these restructuring really is just to favor or benefit the incumbent, really. So we're just wondering, in the long run, how is this going to benefit Nigeria? Because even as you said earlier before the interview, you said there's a lot of hunger and anger at the same time. So how is it going to affect the ordinary Nigerian?
It can't be for the regime in place alone. The mistake that has been made is that when that law was passed, it was passed for the good of Nigeria. It was one of the best things the Babangida administration did for this country. But by carelessness and by the refusal to abide by laws of the land, somebody moved the universities under education without amending the law. If you read a copy of the law, nothing connects them with the Ministry of Education. As a substitute for the National Universities Commission, there's supposed to be an Agricultural Universities Commission under the supervision of this ministry.
As I understand, it was supposed to be an agency established
an authority
to regulate.
Regulate and monitor, but report to this ministry and respond to the needs and demands of this ministry, depending on what kind of areas of agriculture we want to give emphasis to. We tell them, do this for us, carry out that research, investigate this, and so on. What we are trying to do now is to achieve two major things: return to base, intensify research into diseases of crops and livestock, research in seeds, but also become an incubation center for young men and women who will finally leave the university not to go look for jobs in the banks or civil service or the other professions, but actually go into farming. Every undergraduate must own a farm on campus. You have 10,000 hectares. And at any single time, there are less than 4,000 or 5,000 of them, maybe 14, 15. But you can do something, even an acre. Learn how to keep poultry, to keep fish, to keep cattle, to do cattle breed improvement. Learn how to produce improved seeds, how to process. Many years ago, the University of Nigeria in Nsukka had a bakery. It sold bread to Nsukka town, the finest bread they ever ate. Years ago, Ife and Ibadan sold milk. Years ago, A.B.U. Zaria sold the finest meat I ever ate in my life. I graduated there and I taught in Zaria. They had a meat lab, incredible meat. All that is gone. Because we keep losing memory of good things that happened in the past. And that's the problem, I'm sorry to say, about Africa. The past simply wanders off. The present is the only issue. The future is too far away. And we make mistakes, and so we walk into the future unprepared for it, without anticipating problems. And then when we get into the trouble, we get very angry, like the situation in Nigeria now. Of course, people are hungry and angry with the present regime. We appreciate it. We are sorry that people are hungry. But this is the result of 40 years of carelessness. At a point, we were spending $5 million a day importing rice. A day for 40 years. That money was going to sustain another country's economy, create jobs there. We were quite happy. Shiploads of rice. The same with wheat, same with sugar, same with milk, same with honey, even vegetables, toothpaste, tomato paste, name it, everything coming in shiploads. We were happy to disburse our hard-earned dollars from oil and gas. Suddenly the music stops. We have no money to import now, and we have no capacity to produce.
Anybody listening to you would appreciate, your passion about this, and of course we look forward to that future you're trying to envisage right now. But the thing is that without infrastructure, really, we are still backwards. So when we have a lot of plans for agriculture and for local manufacturers, how will this come to fruition?
Well, we're doing our best in spite of the difficulties we have. Power is a big problem, infrastructure, railways and roads, but we can't just fall asleep. In 1 year, from November 2015 to November 2016, we achieved a milestone in rice production. We managed to deliver substantial quantities of rice to Nigerians for Christmas. And amazingly, Nigerians were even surprised that their own rice was as good or even better than what they had been eating.
All right, just hold on with your thoughts. We're still with the Minister of Agriculture. We'll be right back on the Universities of Agriculture in Nigeria. Please join us again.